always believed my husband Darius and I had a solid relationship, one of those that could weather the passage of time and life storms, where trust flowed like air and respect was simply assumed. No daily promises needed. We shared routines, big decisions, and even the comfortable silences of the weekend. There were never jealous outbursts or suspicious glances. We were the kind of couple others envied for our apparent harmony. I thought I knew every corner of his soul, every gesture, and every pause in his breathing. But stability, as I would later learn, does not always mean truth. That morning was nothing out of the ordinary. He showered early, made his black coffee just the way he liked it, and left with a quick kiss, saying he was expected at the office. He was wearing his favorite charcoal suit, the one he wore for important meetings, and he drove off in the company sedan as he did every weekday. The final slam of the door had no double meaning. There was no distinct look or change in the tone of his voice. For me, it was simply another day in our perfectly timed routine. I had no idea I was about to discover an irreparable crack. While organizing the house, I walked into the garage and saw our personal SUV covered in dust. Its tires were static, and the windshield was opaque with neglect, as if time had stopped inside it. I thought it would be a nice gesture to clean it up, a surprise for him, a way to remind him that even the small details mattered to me. I found the cleaning supplies, carefully opened the doors, and started checking every corner, shaking out old memories embedded in the seats. I felt genuinely happy, imagining his smile when he saw it gleaming again. But what I found had nothing to do with joy. As I wiped the dashboard with a damp cloth, I opened the glove compartment without thinking, just to empty and clean it thoroughly. Tucked between old registration papers and a pack of stale gum, I saw a box of condoms, perfectly sealed, with no signs of having been opened. I recognized them instantly, a brand we had never used. My fingers froze instantly, as if the contact with that object burned me from the inside. My breath caught in my throat, and the world seemed to fall silent around me. I stood motionless, with the box in my hands, as if the simple act of holding it was a betrayal in itself. We had gone years without using protection since we decided to try for a second child, though it never happened. It made no sense for him to have them, much less new ones, hidden away like a secret from another life. A sharp physical pang shot through my chest, and I felt something break inside me without warning. It was a silent but devastating revelation. I slammed the glove compartment shut with a sudden jarring movement, as if doing so could erase what I had seen, as if the dry sound of the latch could serve as a denial. I backed away from the SUV, trembling, my legs numbed and my stomach twisted into knots. My mind went blank. No words, no questions, just a dull, constant roar in my chest. I leaned against the garage wall, unable to comprehend how something so small could cause such intense pain. I couldn't even cry. It was too soon to understand what it meant. For hours, I repeated to myself that there had to be a logical, innocent, even clumsy explanation. Maybe they were old, forgotten, bought by mistake, some absurd, unimportant gesture of precaution. I clung to any possibility that did not involve infidelity because the alternative was too agonizing to consider. I forced myself to continue cleaning even though my hands were shaking and my eyes were blurry with unshed tears. It was easier to lie to myself than to accept the truth. But deep down, something screamed at me that I could no longer hide from the facts. That this box was an open door to a betrayal that had been going on for some time. The way it was stored, the neatness of the hiding spot, the fact that he said nothing, it all fit together like pieces of a puzzle I refused to assemble. This wasn't remnants of the past or innocent oversights. This was recent, premeditated, carefully concealed, and I could no longer close my eyes to it. I went back inside without saying a word, like a ghost shuffling her feet, my face pale and my gaze lost. I sat on the sofa, in the same corner where we had watched movies cuddled up countless times, and let the tears fall uncontrollably. I didn't scream. I didn't cause a scene. I just cried silently, as if the pain was afraid to make noise. The hours passed, and I stayed there, still hugging my anguish with crossed arms. No one saw me break on the inside. From that day on, something fractured in the way I looked at him, as if his eyes were no longer the same, as if his smile hid something murky underneath. I started observing him from a distance, making a mental note of every excuse, every glance at his cell phone, every gesture that had previously gone unnoticed. He was no longer my life partner, but a stranger pretending to be one. And I, who had always been transparent with him, now learned to keep silent because something within me had awakened. I went to a local spice shop near our neighborhood and bought a packet of dried habanero chili peppers, the kind that burn just from touching them. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do, but something pushed me to act, to not sit there watching myself be destroyed. Back at home, I calmly crushed the chilies, feeling the burn in my eyes like a necessary punishment. I did it without tears, without trembling, like someone preparing poison with a surgeon's precision. It was a cold decision, but it was mine. With latex gloves I found under the bathroom sink, I opened the box of condoms with the same care one uses to defuse a bomb. One by one, I filled them with that infernal powder, making sure each one was thoroughly coated in heat. I sealed them meticulously, leaving no fingerprints, altering nothing that could raise suspicion. It was an act of silent, surgical revenge, with no need for words or confrontation. I didn't want justice. I wanted it to hurt. I returned to the SUV, opened the glove compartment gently, and placed the box in the exact same position I had found it, as if I had never touched it. I closed the door softly and took a deep breath, knowing there was no turning back. I made sure to leave no traces, to move nothing else to avoid disturbing the scene. This wasn't a threat. It was a silent promise. If he was going to betray me, at least he wouldn't do it without consequences. That night, I greeted him with a serene, even tender smile, as if nothing had changed, as if I was still the woman who waited lovingly for him every day. I cooked his favorite meal, lit a few candles, and listened intently to his office stories while nodding silently. Inside, rage and sadness crossed like sharp knives, but I didn't let it show. I had learned to fake it better than I ever imagined. I was an actress in my own home. Slowly, the excuses began. Impromptu meetings, urgent deliverables, bosses asking him to stay late. He said these things without looking me in the eye, as if the guilt was already beginning to weigh on him, though not enough to stop. He spoke quickly, with short phrases in a hurry he had not had before. Every word reinforced what I already knew, but I continued to listen with feigned understanding. He thought I saw nothing, and that gave him security. The following days became a sequence of increasingly long absences, delayed message responses, and missed calls without explanation. He came home late, smelling of perfumes that weren't mine, and avoided physical contact as if my closeness bothered him. He started leaving his cell phone silent, face down, with a clumsy caution that only confirmed his deception. I watched him from afar, mentally logging every sign. Patience had become my best weapon. One afternoon, armed with courage and my heart pounding in my throat, I decided to follow him quietly, keeping my car at a safe distance. It didn't take long for him to lead me to the truth. I watched him park in front of a discreet mid-tier independent hotel, the Sterling Suites, and step out with a sure step accompanied by a blonde woman. She was laughing, touching him as if she was hers, and he didn't hide, as if this cheating didn't even merit discretion. I stayed inside my car, watching the scene with contained tears. There was no longer room for doubt. When she turned her head, my world collapsed. She wasn't a stranger. It was Tiffany Shaw, his office colleague, the same one who had been in our home on more than one occasion. We had shared dinners, holiday parties, even intimate chats about life. I felt stabbed twice, once by him and once by her. This was not just infidelity, it was a betrayal in the form of a cruel play. And the worst part, was that both of them had performed it in front of me. They weren't just betraying me, but also her husband, Elias Hawthorne, a kind man who had always greeted me with respect when we crossed paths. Everything was an interwoven web of lies, a double life built on our backs without any shame. I realized they shared more than desire. They shared secrets, plans, and hours stolen from our families. What started as suspicion now revealed itself as an unbearable certainty. The pain had names and faces. I didn't get out of the car. I didn't scream. I didn't cause a scene. I simply watched, recording every gesture, every knowing glance, understanding that very soon everything would fall under its own weight. The trap was already set, and there was no way to avoid it. I became a spectator of my own vengeance,